What makes a good operator? To be honest, it doesn't really matter. What answer would make sense? Do you want me to tell you my own personal, subjective take as to what I think makes a good operator? I did that in my Frostleaf video. To me, a good operator is an operator who successfully performs in the role and niche that they are designed for, and this definition is so broad that it essentially defines every single operator in the game as good, Frostleaf being the exception. But with her module granting her a chance at inflicting cold, which is what I said in my video would fix her, it's entirely possible that she will no longer be that exception. And if that is the case, then that means that every operator is now a good operator. Yes, including Kirara and Spuria. And so, that would defeat the point of having this good-bad dichotomy. If everyone is good, then why bother talking about it? My own method of determining good or bad operators is kind of pointless. It's a flawed system that does nothing but justify the use for every operator in Arknights. Because that's kind of the point. I don't actually like the idea of a good-bad dichotomy in Arknights. When I rhetorically asked you at the start of the video what makes a good operator, I responded with, it doesn't matter. Because what would you do with that information? Typically, if an operator is defined as good, that means that they are buildable and should be used, whereas if an operator is defined as bad, it's more of a warning to not waste any resources building them, as there are better uses for those resources. This assumes, though, that Arknights is a game of completely finite resources, and that a slight mismanagement of those resources is detrimental to your progression in the game. The thing is, though, is that you don't need good units to play Arknights. Arknights is a single-player game. There's no competitive mode that forces you to abide by a strict metagame. All that really determines progression is beating stages. If you manage to beat a stage with suboptimal units, then what makes that any different than beating a stage with optimal units? All that matters is that you beat the stage, not really how you beat it. And for the matter of upgrading optimal operators to save resources, you can look at my account. I have loads of commonly considered bad operators built, while other commonly considered good operators are unused. And despite this, I'm at chapter 13. This is something that my No Gotcha series of videos is attempting to prove, and that you can get really far in Arknights with just what you were given. And if I bothered to upgrade my operators to beyond Elite 2, I'm sure I'd get much further than where I currently am. Because operators don't define the account, the player does. You can find success with bad operators, it is just difficult to do so. As much as everyone likes to hate on Frostleaf, there are use cases for her. If you can find a situation where her slow is beneficial and isn't being inhibited with blockers, then you most certainly can take advantage of her strong suits. Yes, there may be better options, but that's beside the point. Any operator can be effective, you just need to know how to use them effectively. And yes, I mean any operator. So, bad operators aren't bad per se, just difficult to use. Good operators are the inverse. If an operator is easy to use effectively and can be used in a large variety of situations, then the operator is deemed as good. And at the highest level of evaluation, an operator may only be seen as good if they aren't replaceable by other options. So it makes sense why good operators are appealing, but at the same time, why are bad operators considered something to avoid? If you upgrade a bad operator to Elite 2 and use them to their highest effectiveness, then how is that a waste of resources? As long as you are using the operator, the resources you put into it are being used. Just because they weren't put into a better option doesn't mean that they were wasted. Because ultimately, what matters is that you're enjoying the unit, and not that your account is as optimized as possible. I haven't upgraded my Surtur or Bagpipe because I don't really feel like I need them. I'm perfectly fine using Mouse, Sadaroka, or Amiya in place of Surtur, and as long as Vigna is holding her own, I don't really think I need to upgrade to Bagpipe, because to be honest, why do I need the better option if I'm perfectly fine where I am? Isn't it a good thing that I can beat a stage without the meta pick? Isn't it a good thing that I'm competent enough as a player to understand the use cases of arts fighters without having to rely on an operator that completely breaks the subclass? If I beat a stage with what I have, why do I need something else? It seems like it's a good thing to use bad operators, weirdly enough. It's something very common in the Arknights community, actually. A lot of people don't enjoy the absurd power level of the meta and want an excuse to play the game in a bit more of a challenging fashion, and this will end up with the usage of often considered bad operators. Hell, it's because of Chapter 9 in my No Gotcha series that I ever really thought to give Quartz a chance. It's because I didn't have any other options that I was forced to really learn and understand these operators, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be enjoying my single favorite subclass in the game. I think some people just don't want to fail, which makes sense. Failure is seen as a bad thing because you didn't succeed, but in reality, I think the insistence of completely avoiding failure is what prevents you from becoming a better player. If you use the best operators in the game, you are doing so in order to make the game as easy as possible for yourself. If you do that, you won't struggle. It's good to struggle. If you struggle on a stage and then you eventually beat it, that means that you've potentially grown as a player. Something had to have changed in order for you to now beat the stage. Maybe you got better RNG, maybe you just needed to upgrade a unit, but more importantly, maybe you understood an interaction better, you improved your strategy, you got better as a player because you struggled, and that's what leads you to finally beat the stage. I don't think the objective of Arknights is to just beat the game. I think the objective of Arknights is to improve as a player, as with all games. And in order to improve, maybe instead of talking about what makes an operator good, we instead talk about how we can make an operator good. Instead of calling Verdant bad because he doesn't do that much damage, maybe we talk about how he can be used as a ranged arts damage sponge. Yeah, Jackie can't lane hold, but that doesn't mean that she can't pick off lower defense enemies pretty well. And yeah, Quartz has no defense, so don't use her against spam. Arknights is a strategy game, and avoiding the strategy part and instead simply discussing pure optimization doesn't make players better. It simply just defines a single optimized playstyle that is the playstyle. I don't feel that abiding by this playstyle is what defines a good player, because it lacks a sense of individual progression. Anyone can beat a stage with the meta operators, but not everyone can beat a stage with just 3 stars. I think we should want players to stray away from pure optimization. Instead, we should want to encourage experimentation, because experimentation leads to new innovations, new purposes, and new experiences. It is fun for me when I figure out a stage where Frostleaf works well in, because I managed to prove to myself that I can make Frostleaf work. I can beat the stage even with this community-proclaimed handicap. Do you want to know what actually makes an operator good? You do. You make an operator good. You turn operators from bad to good by learning them, understanding them, figuring out interactions, and using them. An operator will always remain a bad operator until you pick them up and use them. Don't be afraid to use bad operators, because bad operators make good players. And because this is the internet and I have to make things very clear, I am not saying that it is wrong to metagame. If you enjoy super optimization, that's your preferred playstyle, then go for it. Not everyone wants to be a super sweated Arknights, and that's fine, because what really matters is how you want to play the game. If you want to steamroll a stage with meta operators because you just want to read the story or get the rewards, go for it. If you want to use suboptimal operator, either because you like the character or want to challenge or find their kit super fun, then do that. Build whoever you want. Play Arknights how you want to play it. There are no bad operators because you make them good.